It ain't looking good for Prince William, guys. The walls are closing in, the knives are out, and his own media allies have turned their backs on him. In just 1 week, we've seen a coordinated demolition job that would make even the most seasoned royal watcher's head spin. We're talking suicide, slavery, secret separations, and a house of horrors that the future king calls his forever home. But here's the million-dollar question everyone's asking. Who ordered the hit? Welcome back to Meghan and Harry Tales. I'm your host Adrian, and today we're diving headfirst into the royal bloodbath that has Prince William scrambling for cover. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why the future king's crown is looking more like a target on his back. Let me paint you a picture of just how dramatic this shift has been. For decades, Prince William has been the golden boy of the British royal family. The press has treated him with kid gloves, painted him as the perfect future king, the devoted husband, the loving father. But something seismic has shifted in the past week, and I mean seismic. We're not talking about your typical tabloid gossip here, folks. These aren't random hit pieces from outlets looking for clicks. No, this is something far more sinister and coordinated. The Daily Mail, the Daily Mail. William's most loyal cheerleader has suddenly turned into his worst nightmare. When your best friend starts airing your dirty laundry in public, you know you've crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. Think about this for a moment. The Daily Mail has been Prince William's unofficial PR machine for years. They've covered up scandals, spun disasters into triumphs, and painted Kate Middleton as the perfect princess when we all know the reality is far more complicated. So when they start running stories about dark histories, troubling connections, and questionable decisions, that's not journalism, that's a message being sent from the very top of the royal food chain. Now let's talk about this so-called forever home that's got everyone talking. On the surface, it sounds romantic, doesn't it? William and Kate settling down for their happily ever after. But scratch beneath that glossy surface, and what you'll find will make your skin crawl. The property they're planning to move into isn't just any house, it's a place with a genuinely disturbing history. We're talking about a location where someone took their own life, where royal relationships have historically gone to die, and where the very foundations were built on the profits of slavery. Now, I'm not one to believe in curses, but if I were a superstitious man, I'd say this place comes with more baggage than a Kardashian vacation. But here's where it gets really interesting. The timing of these revelations isn't accidental. Someone and I have my suspicions about who has decided that now is the perfect time to remind everyone about the dark history of this property. Why now? Why, just as William and Kate are preparing to make this move, are we suddenly hearing all these gory details? I'll tell you why. Because someone wants to plant the seed in the public's mind that this isn't a forever home, it's a separation house. Think about it logically. You're the future King of England. You should be at the centre of power, close to London, accessible to your duties. Instead, you're choosing to isolate yourself and your family in what's essentially the middle of nowhere. That's not a family decision, that's a strategic retreat. Let's talk about what might be the most telling detail in this entire saga, the decision to live without staff. Now, royal expert Katie Nicholl tried to spin this as some kind of wholesome family choice, claiming it's about teaching the children responsibility and maintaining normalcy. But folks, I've been watching this family long enough to know when we're being fed a line, and this is premium grade nonsense. Since when do royals prioritise normalcy over protocol? Since when does the future King of England worry about his children doing chores when he's got a kingdom to prepare to inherit? The answer is simple. He doesn't. This isn't about family values, this is about secrecy and control. Live in staff see everything. They hear the late-night arguments, they witness the separate bedrooms, they know who comes and goes at odd hours. They're the ones who eventually end up talking to reporters, writing tell-all books, or worse, testifying in divorce proceedings. By eliminating live-in staff, William and Kate are essentially creating their own private fortress, where whatever happens stays buried. But there's another layer to this that's even more disturbing. If you're planning to live a double life, and I believe William absolutely is, then the last thing you want is witnesses living under your roof. You want the freedom to come and go as you please, to have your, shall we say, private meetings, without prying eyes reporting back to palace officials, or worse, tabloid journalists. Now, I promised you we'd get to the bottom of who's orchestrating this campaign against William, and I believe I know exactly who's pulling the strings. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Queen Camilla, or as I like to call her, Camilla the Rat. Think about the timeline here. King Charles is clearly not in the best health. The transition to William is inevitable, and it's coming sooner rather than later. But Camilla has spent years building her network, cultivating relationships, and positioning herself as an indispensable part of the royal machine. She's not about to let some young upstart, even if he is the rightful heir, push her into the shadows. Camilla has dirt on everyone, and she's not afraid to use it. She's survived being the most hated woman in Britain after Diana's death, clawed her way to respectability, and finally achieved her dream of wearing the crown. You think she's going to let William waltz in and potentially marginalise her? Think again. The beauty of Camilla's strategy is its subtlety. She's not directly attacking William, that would be too obvious. Instead, she's using her media contacts to plant stories that make William look unstable, unreliable and unprepared for kingship. It's death by 1,000 cuts, and it's absolutely brilliant in its execution. Let's take a moment to talk about Kate Middleton, because what we're seeing happen to her is genuinely concerning. In those recent photos from Balmoral, we see a woman who looks like she's slowly disappearing before our eyes. The lighter hair, the gaunt appearance, the forced smile that doesn't reach her eyes. This is not the confident, radiant woman we once knew. I've been calling Kate Casper the Ghost, because she's literally fading into the background of her own life. Since that whole mysterious disappearance situation last year, and we still don't have the full truth about what really happened during those missing months, Kate has essentially taken the back seat in her own marriage and her own royal role. But here's what's really troubling me. In those Balmoral photos, look at the body language. Kate is trying to maintain that public smile, playing the dutiful wife role she's perfected over the years. But William? He looks gaunt, irritated, like a man who's just been told something he really didn't want to hear. That's not the look of a man who's happily planning his forever home with his beloved wife. That's the look of a man who's been backed into a corner. I genuinely believe that Kate knows what's coming. She can see the writing on the wall, and she's trying to position herself and her children for what's inevitably going to be a very public and very messy separation. Moving to this remote, forever home isn't about family bonding. It's about creating physical and emotional distance before the bomb drops. We need to address the elephant in the room, the continued references to Thomas Kingston in these stories about William. For those who might not be familiar, Thomas Kingston was Lady Gabriella Windsor's husband, who died under circumstances that raised serious questions and eyebrows throughout royal circles. The fact that the media keeps connecting these stories back to Kingston and then linking them to William is not accidental. In royal media code, when outlets start drawing lines between current controversies and past tragedies, they're sending a very specific message. They're saying, we know things, we remember things, and we're not going to let certain things get swept under the royal carpet. There are whispers, and I want to be very careful here because these are sensitive matters, but there are whispers that Kingston knew things, had access to information that certain people found inconvenient. His death was ruled suicide, but anyone who's followed royal scandals knows that sometimes the official story and the real story are two very different things. The fact that William's name keeps getting dragged into these discussions should worry him immensely. It suggests that whatever happened with Kingston, whatever he knew or might have been planning to reveal, there are people who believe William was somehow connected to it. And now, with William becoming increasingly isolated and vulnerable, those same people are making sure the connection doesn't get forgotten. Royal biographers and experts are now openly questioning William's priorities, and this is where things get really calculated. They're pushing this narrative that William wants to put family first, but that this conflicts with his royal duty. On the surface, this seems like reasonable criticism, but dig deeper and you'll see the trap being set. By questioning William's commitment to duty, these critics are essentially providing him with the perfect excuse for when his marriage falls apart. They're setting up the narrative that William had to choose between being a good king and being a good husband, and ultimately, duty won. It's a ready-made story that paints William as a tragic figure rather than a failed husband. But here's the reality check nobody wants to acknowledge. This isn't about choosing between family and duty. This is about a man who wants to have his cake and eat it too. William wants the crown, the power, and the respect that comes with being king, but he also wants the freedom to live his life on his terms without the constraints of a traditional royal marriage. The forever home arrangement is perfect for this. Kate and the children get shipped off to the countryside where they can live their normal life, while William maintains his London base, where he can fulfill his royal duties, and let's be honest, pursue his personal interests without interference. There's been talk about William wanting to modernise the monarchy to make it more accessible through digital means, but royal experts are now questioning whether this digital reign approach might actually make the royal family less connected to the people, not more. This criticism is particularly damaging because it strikes at the heart of William's attempts to rebrand himself as a modern, tech-savvy royal. If the very approach he's championing as his unique contribution to the monarchy is being dismissed as potentially harmful, then what exactly does he bring to the table? I suspect this criticism is part of a larger strategy to undermine William's confidence in his own vision for the future of the monarchy. By questioning his modernization efforts, his family priorities, and his living arrangements all at once, his critics are essentially saying that William doesn't understand what it means to be king. Here's what I believe is really happening behind the scenes, and why all of these seemingly disparate stories are actually part of one coordinated strategy. Everything we're seeing, the isolated home, the lack of staff, the media criticism, the questions about duty, is setting up the narrative for what I believe is an inevitable separation between William and Kate. Think about how brilliantly this has been orchestrated. When the separation is eventually announced, the royal spin machine will point back to all of these stories and say, "Look, we told you this was coming." William was struggling with balancing his royal duties and his family life. Kate was feeling isolated and wanted privacy for the children. They grew apart despite their best efforts. The remote forever home becomes the perfect cover story. Kate can stay there with the children, maintaining some semblance of family unity for public consumption, while William lives primarily in London, fulfilling his royal duties and living his separate life. It's an arrangement that benefits everyone except for those of us who prefer truth to carefully crafted fiction. What we're witnessing is nothing short of a palace coup, executed not with swords and shields, but with carefully placed media stories and strategic leaks. Someone with significant power and influence has decided that William needs to be brought to heel, and they're using his own traditional allies to do it. This isn't just about marriage troubles or family drama. This is about power, succession and control of the monarchy itself. William may be the heir, but he's not yet the king, and there are forces within the royal establishment who want to make sure he understands exactly who's really in charge. The message being sent is crystal clear: play by our rules or face the consequences. The fact that William's own friendly media outlets are participating in this campaign shows just how serious the situation has become. When your allies abandon you, it's not because they've stopped caring about you, it's because someone more powerful has given them a better offer. So, where does this all lead? I believe we're looking at a complete restructuring of William's public image and private life. The coordinated media campaign will continue until William either capitulates to whatever demands are being made of him, or until the separation becomes so inevitable that it needs to be managed rather than prevented. The forever home will become the setting for this new chapter, a place where Kate and the children can live quietly, while William transitions into his role as a bachelor king in waiting. The historical darkness of the property suddenly makes perfect sense in this context. It's not meant to be a happy family home, it's meant to be a gilded cage, where inconvenient family members can be stored out of sight. The royal family has always been a house of cards, held together by carefully managed public perception, strategic media relationships, and an elaborate system of mutual blackmail disguised as loyalty. What we're seeing now is what happens when that system breaks down, when the carefully maintained balance of power shifts, and when someone decides that the future king needs to be reminded of his place. William thought he could play by his own rules, make his own decisions, and chart his own course toward the throne. But the royal establishment has been playing this game for centuries, and they don't take kindly to upstarts who think they can change the rules just because they're next in line. The tragedy in all of this isn't just William's fall from grace, it's what this means for the monarchy itself. If the heir to the throne can be so easily manipulated and undermined by palace politics, what does that say about the stability of the institution? If the future king can't even control his own narrative, how can he hope to lead a nation? The royal Game of Thrones is more vicious than anything George R. Martin ever imagined. And right now, Prince William is discovering that winter is coming whether he's ready for it or not. The question now isn't whether he'll survive this coordinated assault, it's whether he'll emerge from it as the king he thought he'd become or as the puppet someone else needs him to be. What do you think is really behind this sudden media turn against William? Is this Camilla's master plan, or is there an even deeper conspiracy at play? And more importantly, do you think William has what it takes to fight back, or is he already beaten? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more royal analysis here on Meghan and Harry Tales. The royal family's dirty laundry is finally getting aired, and trust me, we're just getting started. Until next time, I'm Adrian. And remember, in the House of Windsor, today's prince can become tomorrow's prisoner faster than you can say, "God save the King."